Hey, last time we left Odysseus and his guys guarding the door, and the textbook skipped to book 23, The Trunk of the Olive Tree, with like a synopsis of the battle, and I decided I wasn't going to do that to you. So Odysseus and Telemachus and Eumaeus the swineherd and a cowherd are all holding the doorway with their fully armed equipment, and the suitors are over there on the other side, unarmed and unequipped. And this is how the battle turned out. So I'm going to pick back up where we left off right here. This is the word bronze shot spears, I think. Bronze shot. Yep. All right. So we're going to pick up right here, and we're going to read. And I'll close this video at the end of this chapter. I'll probably have two videos today. This one and then chapter 23, which follows, or book 23, which follows. So the suitors, who held their feet no longer under bowshot, could see a window high in a recess of the wall, a vent lighting the passage to the storeroom. This passage had one entry, with a door at the edge of the great hall's threshold, just outside. Odysseus told the swineherd to stand over and guard this door and passage. As he did so, a suitor named Agelaus, I don't know, asked the others, "Who will get a leg up on that window and run to alarm the town? One sharp attack, and this fellow will never shoot again." His answer came from the goatherd Melanthius. Remember, Melanthius is the evil one. The cowherd and the swineherd are good, but the goatherd is evil. He's a bad suitor. Servant. I can talk, I swear. No chance, my lord. The exit into the courtyard is too near to them, too narrow. One good man could hold that portal against a crowd. No, let me scale the wall and bring you arms out of the storage chamber. Odysseus and his son put them indoors, I'm sure of it, not outside. The goatish goatherd clambered up the wall, toes in the chinks, and slipped in through to the storeroom. 12 light shields, 12 spears he took, and 12 thick-crested helms, and handed all down quickly to the suitors. Odysseus, when he saw his adversaries girded and capped and long spears in their hands, shaken at him, felt his knees go slack, his heart sink, for the fight was turning grim. He spoke rapidly to his son. So all of a sudden, Melanthius is able to arm the suitors. So now both sides have helmets and shields and spears, and we don't have that disparity in arms that we had before. It's suddenly a fair fight, except that the suitors have a lot more guys. He spoke to his son. "Telemachus, one of the serving women is tipping the scales against us in this fight, or maybe Melanthius." But sharp and clear, Telemachus said, "It is my own fault, father, mine alone. The storeroom door, I left it wide open. They were more alert than I. Eumaeus, go and lock that door, and bring back word if a woman is doing this, or Melanthius, Dolius' son." Hey, it's interesting, Dolius' son. Isn't that the evil maid? She's Dolius' daughter, so apparently this guy Dolius is just a bad seed. More likely he. Even as they conferred, Melanthius entered the storeroom for a second load, and the swineherd at the passage entry saw him. He cried out to his lord, "Son of Laertes, Odysseus, master mariner and soldier, there he goes, the monkey, as we thought. There he goes into the storeroom. Let me hear your will. Put a spear through him? I hope I am the stronger. Or drag him here to pay for his foul tricks against your house." Odysseus said, "Telemachus and I will keep these gentlemen in hall, for all their urge to leave. You two go, throw him into the storeroom, wrench his arms and legs behind him, lash his hands and feet to a plank, and hoist him up to the roof beams. Let him live on their suffering at his leisure." The two men heard him with appreciation and ducked into the passage. Melanthius, rummaging in the chamber, could not hear them as they came up, nor could he see them freeze like posts on either side of the door. He turned back with a handsome crested helmet in one hand, and in the other an old shield coated with dust, a shield Laertes bore soldiering in his youth, probably when he was on the Argo. That's kind of fun. It had lain there for years, and the seams on the strap and grip had rotted away. As Melanthius came out, the two men sprang, jerked him backward by the hair, threw him hands and feet. They tied with a cutting cord behind him, so his bones ground in their sockets. Sounds kind of painful. Just as Laertes' royal son commanded. Then, with a whip of rope, they hoisted him in agony up a pillar to the beams. And, oh my swineherd, you were the one to say, "Watch through the night up there, Melanthius. An airy bed is what you need. You'll be awake to see the primrose dawn when she goes glowing from the streams of ocean to mount the golden throne. No oversleeping. The hour for driving goats to feed the suitors." They stopped for a helm and shield and left him there, contorted in his brutal sling, and shut the doors and went to join Odysseus, whose mind moved through the combat now to come. Breathing deep and snorting hard, they stood four at the entry, facing 2 score. A score is 20, so we're looking at 40 guys. 2 score men. But now into the gracious doorway stepped Zeus's daughter Athena. She wore the guise of Mentor. You guys remember Mentor was an old man from Ithaca who helped Telemachus outfit a ship and take his first sea voyage. It was Athena in disguise. This is where meeting the Mentor comes from. She wore the guise of Mentor, and Odysseus appealed to her in joy. No, Mentor, join me in this fight. Remember how all my life I've been devoted to you, friend of my youth? For he guessed it was Athena, hope of soldiers. Cries came from the suitors, and Aegelas, Damastor's son, called out, Mentor, don't let Odysseus lead you astray to fight against us on his side. Think twice. We are resolved, and we will do it. After we kill them, father and son, you too will have your throats slit for your pains. If you make trouble for us here, it means your life, and cutting throats will not be all. Whatever wealth you have at home or elsewhere will mingle with Odysseus' wealth. Your sons will be turned out, your wife and daughters banished from the town of Ithaca. Athena's anger grew. Yeah, they said this to who they thought was Mentor, but they're really threatening Athena, which is, it's bad business no matter who you are. Athena's anger grew like a storm wind as he spoke until she flashed out at Odysseus. Ah, what a falling off! Where's your valor? Where is the iron hand that fought at Troy for Helen, Pearl of Kings? No respite in 9 years of war? How many foes your hand brought down in the bloody play of spears? What stratagem but yours took Priam's town? How is it now that on your own door still, before the harriers of your wife, you curse your luck not to be stronger? Come here, cousin, stand by me, and you'll see action in the enemy's teeth. Learn how Mentor, son of Alcimos, repays fair dealing. For all her fighting words, she gave no overpowering aid, not yet. Father and son must prove their mettle still. Into the smoky air, under the roof, the goddess merely darted to perch on a blackened beam. No figure to be seen now, but a swallow. So she turns into a bird. So Mentor in front of them all, poof, turns into a bird and flies up to this roof beam. Command of the suitors had fallen to Aegelas. I can never say his name correctly, but whatever. With him were Eurynomos, Amphimedon, Demotopolis, Pysandros, we met him before, Polybus, the best of the lot who stood to fight for their lives. After the streaking arrows downed the rest, Aegelas rallied them with his plan of battle. Friends, our killer has come to the end of his rope, and much good Mentor did him that blow hard. Dropping in, look, only 4 are left to fight. In the light, they're at the door. No scattering of shots, men, no throwing away good spears. We 6 will aim a volley at Odysseus alone, and may Zeus grant us glory of a hit. If he goes down, the others are no problem. At his command, then, ho! They all let fly as one man, but Athena spoiled their shots. One hit the doorpost of the hall, another stuck in the door's thick timbering, still others rang on the stone wall, shivering shafts of ash. Seeing his men unscathed, royal Odysseus gave the word for action. Now, I say, friends, the time's overdue to let them have it. Battle spoil they want from our dead bodies, to add to all they plundered here before. Taking aim over the steadied lance heads, they all let fly together. Odysseus killed Demotopolis, Telemachus killed Euryades, a swineherd, Elatos, and Pysandros went down before the cowherd. As these lay dying, biting the central floor, their friends gave way and broke for the inner wall. The 4 attackers followed up with a rush to take the spears from the fallen men. Reforming, the suitors threw again with all their strength, but Athena turned their shots, or all but 2. One hit the doorpost in the hall, another stuck in the door's thick timbering, still others rang on the stone wall, shivering halves of ash. Amphimedon's point bloodied Telemachus' wrist, a superficial wound, and Ctipsos' long spear, passing over Eumaeus' shield, grazed his shoulder, hurtled on and fell. No matter. With Odysseus, the great soldier, the wounded threw again. And Odysseus, raider of cities, struck Eurydamas down. Telemachus hit Amphimedon, and the swineherd shot killed Polybus. But Ctipsos, who had last evening thrown a cow's hoof at Odysseus, got the cowherd's heavy cast full in the chest, and dying heard him say, You arrogant, joking bastard, clown will you like a fool, and parade your wit. Leave jesting to the gods, who do it better. This will repay your cow's foot courtesy to a great wanderer come home. The master of the black herds had answered Ctipsos. Odysseus, lunging at close quarters, put a spear through Aegelos, Damastor's son. Telemachus hit Leocritos from behind and pierced him, kidneyed a diaphragm. Speared off his feet, he fell face down on the ground. At this moment, that unmanning thundercloud, the Aegis, Athena's shield, took form aloft in the Great Hall. Hey, if you haven't heard of the Aegis, Aegis, it actually connects really well with one of the myths that we read in class. It's the name of Athena's shield. And Athena's shield was just a regular shield until the story of Perseus and the Medusa. And when Perseus killed Medusa and had finished using her head, he gave the head to Athena, who put it on her shield. And so it's this bronze circular shield with Medusa's head in the middle, and it's Athena's battle ensign. And whenever she shows it in battle, the other side is terrified and flees for their lives. So this shield appears in the sky glowing, and all the suitors see it, and they're filled with terror. And this essentially unnerves them all and sort of ends the battle, and it turns into a slaughter. So you'll see that as we read the rest of this, as if it wasn't a slaughter enough already. Let's see. And the suitors, mad with fear at her great sign, stampeded like stung cattle by a river, when the dread, shimmering gadfly strikes in summer, in the flowing season, in the long-drawn days. That's a extended simile. After them, the attackers wheeled as terrible falcons, another simile, from eyries in the mountains, veering over and diving down with talons wide, unsheathed on flights of birds, who cowered down the sky in shoots and bursts along the valley. But the pouncing falcons gripped their prey. No frantic wing avails, and farmers love to watch those beaked hunters. So these now fell upon the suitors in that hall, turning to strike and strike again, while torn men moaned at death, and blood ran smoking over the whole floor. Now there was one who turned and threw himself at Odysseus' knees, Leodes begging for his life. Mercy, mercy on a suppliant, Odysseus. Never by word or act of mine, I swear, was any woman troubled here. I told the rest to put an end to it. They would not listen, would not keep their hands free from brutishness, and now they're all dying like dogs for it. I had no part in what they did. My part was visionary, reading the smoke of sacrifice. Scruples go unrewarded if I die. The shrewd fighter frowned over him and said, You were diviner to this crowd? How often you must have prayed my sweet day of return would never come, or not for years, and prayed to have my dear wife and beget children on her. No plea like yours could save you from this hard bed of death. Death it shall be. He picked up Aegilus's broadsword from where it lay, flung by the slain man, and gave Leodes' neck a lopping blow so that his head went down to mouth in the dust. One more who had avoided the furious death was the son of Trepus, Phemius, the minstrel, singer by compulsion to the suitors. He stood now with his harp, holy and clear, in the wall's recess under the windows, wondering if he should flee that way to the courtyard altar, sanctuary of Zeus, the enclosure god. Thigh bones in hundreds had been offered there by Laertes and Odysseus. No, he thought, the more direct way would be best, to go humbly to his lord. But first, to save his murmuring instrument, he laid it down carefully between the wine bowl and the chair. Then he betook himself to Lord Odysseus, clung hard to his knees, and said, Mercy, mercy on a suppliant, Odysseus. My gift is song, for men and for gods undying. My death will be remorse for you hereafter. No one taught me, deep in my mind, a god shaped all the various ways of life in song, and I am fit to make verse in your company as in the gods. Put aside your lust for blood. Your own dear son Telemachus can tell you, never by my own will or for love did I feast here or sing among the suitors. They were too strong and too many. They compelled me. Telemachus, in the elation of battle, heard him. He at once called to his father. Wait, that one is innocent. Don't hurt him. And we should let our herald live. Medon. He cared for me from boyhood. Where is he? Has he been killed already? By Philodius or by the swineherd? Else he got an arrow in that first gale of bowshots down the room? Now this came to the ears of prudent Medon under a chair where he had gone to earth, pulling a new flayed bull's hide over him. Quiet he lay, while blinding death passed by. Now heaving out from under, he scrambled for Telemachus' knees and said, Here I am, dear prince, but rest your spear. Tell your great father not to see in me the suitor for the sword's edge. What of those who laughed at you and ruined his property? The lord of all tricks of war surveyed this fugitive and smiled. He said, Courage, my son has dug you out and saved you. Take it to heart. Pass the word along. Fair dealings brings more profit in the end. Now, leave this room. Go, sit down outdoors where there's no carnage in the court. You and the poet with his many voices, while I attend to certain chores inside. At this, two men stirred and picked their way to the door and out, and sat down at the altar, looking round with wincing eyes, as though the sword's edge hovered still, and Odysseus around him, narrow-eyed, Odysseus looked around him narrow-eyed for any others who had laid hidden while death's black fury passed. In blood and dust he saw that the crowd all fallen, many and many slain. Think of a catch that fishermen haul into a half-moon bay in a fine mesh net from the white caps of the sea, how all are poured out onto the sand in throes for the salt sea, twitching their cold lives away in Helios's fiery air. So lay the suitors, heaped on one another. Odysseus at length said to his son, "Go, tell the old nurse. I'll have a word with her. What's to be done now weighs on my mind." Telemachus knocked at the women's door and called, "Euryclea, come here. Move, old woman. You keep your eye on all our servant girls. Jump, my father is here and wants to see you." His call brought no reply, only the doors were opened and she came. Telemachus led her forward. In the shadowy hall, full of dead men, she found his father, spattered and caked with blood, like a mountain lion when he has gorged upon an ox, his kill with white-hot blood glistening over his whole chest, smeared on his jaws, baleful and terrifying. Even so, encrimsoned was Odysseus, up to his thighs and armpits. As she gazed from all the corpses to the bloody man, she raised her head to cry over his triumph, but felt his grip upon her, checking her. Said the great soldier then, "Rejoice inwardly. No crowing aloud, old woman. To glory over the slain men is no piety. Destiny and the gods will vanquish these, and their own hardness. They respected no one, good or bad, who came their way. For this and folly, a bad end befell them. Your part is now to tell me of the women, who are those who dishonored me and the innocent." His own old nurse Euryclea said, "I will then, child. You know you'll have the truth from me. 50 all told they are, your female slaves, trained by your lady and myself in service, wool carding and the rest of it, and taught to be submissive. 12 went bad, flouting me, flouting Penelope too. Telemachus, being barely born, his mother would never let him rule the serving women, but you must let me go to her lighted rooms and tell her some god sent her a drift of sleep." But in reply the great tactician said, "Not yet. Do not awake her. Tell those women who were the suitors' harlots to come here." She went back on this mission through the hall. Then he called Telemachus to his side, and the two herdsmen. Sharply Odysseus said, "These dead men must be disposed of first of all. Direct the women. Tables and chairs will be scrubbed with sponges, rinsed and rinsed again. When our great room is fresh and put in order, take them outside, these women, between the round house and the palisade, and hack them with your sword blades till you cut the life out of them, and every thought of sweet Aphrodite under those rotting suitors when they lay down in secret." Now, these are all the maids who slept with the suitors. He's having them murdered, executed. But first, they've got to move the bodies of the guys they slept with and clean the blood of all the guys they slept with off the tables. This is pretty terrible and pretty harsh. And again, it encapsulates an old sort of sexist view where, Odysseus slept with Calypso and he slept with Circe, and nobody's hacking him to death. But these maids who slept with the suitors who had power over them, and pretty much could well, anyway, it seems unfair to me, but maybe that's just me, I don't know. As he spoke, here came the women in a bunch, all wailing, soft tears on their cheeks. They fell to work to lug the corpses out into the courtyard under the gateway, propping one against another as Odysseus ordered, for he himself stood over them. In fear, these women bore the cold weight of the dead. The next thing was to scrub off the chairs and tables and rinse them down. Telemachus and the herdsmen scraped the packed earth floor with hoes, but made the women carry out all the blood and mire. When the great room was cleaned up once again, at sword point they forced them out, between the roundhouse and the palisade, pell-mell, to huddle in that dead end without exit. Telemachus, who knew his mind, said curtly, "I would not give the clean death of a beast to trulls who made a mockery of my mother, and of me too, you sluts who lay with the suitors." He tied one end of a hawser to a pillar. I think that's the end of my time. Hold on one sec. He tied one end of a hawser to a pillar and passed the other about the roundhouse top, taking the slack up so that no one's toes could touch the ground. They would be hung like doves or larks in spring, triggered in a thicket where the birds think to rest, a cruel nesting. So now in turn each woman thrust her head into a noose and swung yanked high in the air to perish there most piteously. Their feet danced for a little, but not long. This is pretty brutal. And, when you're looking at the Odyssey and what happens to the suitors, it feels deserved. But what's going on with these maids, I don't know. It's pretty rough. But we're almost done. This is the last page. From the storeroom to the court they brought Melanthios, chopped with swords to cut his nose and ears off, pulled off his genitals to feed the dogs, and raging hacked his hands and feet away. This is the part that they don't put in the textbook. I wonder why. Um, as their own hands and feet called for a washing, they went indoors to Odysseus again. Their work was done. He told Eurycleia, "Bring me brimstone and a brazier, medicinal fumes to purify the hall. Then tell Penelope to come, and bring her maids. All servants round the house must be called in." His own old nurse, Eurycleia, replied, "Ay, surely it's well said, child, but let me find you a good clean shirt and cloak and dress you. You must not wrap your shoulders' breadth again in rags in your own hall. That would be shameful." Odysseus answered, "Let me have the fire. The first thing is to purify this place." With no more chat, Eurycleia obeyed, and fetched out fire and brimstone. Cleansing fumes he sent through the court and hall and storage chamber. Then the old woman hurried off again to the women's quarters to announce her news, and all the servants came now bearing torches in twilight, crowding to embrace Odysseus, taking his hands to kiss his head and shoulders while he stood there nodding to everyone and overcome by longing and by tears. And that's the end of book 22. We'll jump to book 23 next time. It's pretty brutal. I want to know your thoughts on how this all turned out. Feel free to leave me some messages in the comments section, and I'll be happy to get to them. Thanks.